Hello, this video is for victims of domestic abuse. Now, it's really hard to sometimes see yourself as a victim of domestic abuse because I think that largely language is really important here, and lots of people will coin domestic abuse to a physical altercation, physical assault, or a physical incident. We have moved way beyond that, people. Domestic abuse is not just physical abuse. Domestic abuse is coercive control at the core of it. And in domestic abuse, we have a position of elevation. So someone is in a position of control in the household, and that creates a subservient person. Okay, this is the victim. The person that's at the bottom of what we call like a power pyramid in domestic abuse is that there's a person that's elevated, they sit in a position of control, and then we have the subservient person that's quite often going to be, most of the time, the victim of domestic abuse. One of the most complex things in domestic abuse, one of the most frustrating things as a professional, is that what we have is Stockholm syndrome quite a lot of the time. So there is what we have to really look at is a comprehensive understanding of an individual, because if a person's grown up with attachment trauma, then their universal understanding of what creates a safe, loving, secure attachment isn't going to be there. Now, that means that there could be an exposure of risk for a person going into a situation upon another situation upon another situation where they're going to be treated with high degrees of harm, abuse, but they're going to be used to it. So domestic abuse and an individual's assessment of the abuse is dynamic, because in the beginning of treating domestic abuse, a lot of the time for me as a therapist, especially at this point in my career, is, I don't think I'm being abused. Is it that bad? And you'll hear this because gaslighting comes into effect. It's actually my fault. Now, we get that a lot of time in domestic abuse when a person has been held accountable for all the dysfunctional behaviour and scapegoated. You know, that's a really big thing here, for the behaviour of the other person that refuses to look at themselves, that sits there and says, it's not me, it's actually you, you're mad. You're the crazy one, you deserved it deserves to happen to you because there is nothing wrong with me and I'm perfect. There we have minimisation, denial and blame and projection, and the projection is on the other person entirely. And if we have that enough, then that person will believe, and does quite often believe, that they are the instrument of harm, even though they're the one that's been abused. The profile of domestic abuse is not a physical thing. It can be a physical thing, but it is financial, sexual, it is emotional, it is psychological, and quite often it is hidden, it is concealed, and you will not know. And a lot of the time the victim doesn't know that they're in a really abusive relationship. So for instance, one of the cases that I'm working with at the moment today, from the offset, large house, done well, very successful. You would not think that she was in an incredibly terrifying, by the way, why it's really important to work with trained professionals, really high risk abusive relationship where she has been assaulted on repeat, psychologically harmed to a point that she thinks that she's mad, and she thinks that she is deserving of all the ill treatment she experiences at the hands of the perpetrator. This will be highly detrimental to a person's worth, and if it's on repeat, and domestic abuse is, then a lot of the time we have complex post-traumatic stress disorder as well, and a person finds a way of coping inside the relationship where they will shut down, be avoidant, not process themselves emotionally, be in denial. So it's a really complex area, but there are a few things that I need to let you know. That if you are in a situation, that if you reflect and you think that you are being treated really badly and you're being abused, that one, you deserve so much more. No one deserves that. That's not safe, loving, secure attachment. You are an equal. You deserve to be treated as an equal. You deserve safety, and you deserve to have that as the benchmark to all relationships, a real secure foundation. If you feel that you are, there are lots of different provisions nationally in Britain that can help you. You've got Women's Aid that you can contact, and alongside that you can apply for non-molestation orders. If you think that there is a threat of violence towards you or your children, you phone 999 straight away. The police can put a marker next to your name if they are concerned and do what is called the Carter Dash risk assessment. Okay, so anyone that is a victim of domestic abuse needs that. They need the CARDA risk assessment to be done by a professional so that they can manage the demographic of the abuse, because sometimes it's so dangerous for these people in these sorts of situations that it needs a multi-agency response and it needs to be safeguarded. Why the appropriate amounts of training is incredibly important when you work with these really vulnerable areas. So domestic abuse needs a CARDA risk assessment. If it scores high, it needs a MARIC, and a MARIC is an instrument of safety where professionals come in to keep these people safe, because in domestic abuse you get total wipeout, and that means that a lot of the time, even as ugly as it is to hear it, children are used as weapons against people so that the perpetrator of the abuse can keep their power intact. So be really mindful of that. Everyone deserves a life outside of abuse. Domestic abuse is absolutely horrendous for people, and it's about breaking generational codes, cycles and patterns of behaviour and creating a safe, loving, secure, nurturing space for yourself and your children, especially if they're involved in this. This never creates a happy household, and like I say in the perpetrator video, if you have someone that perpetrates abuse, and that can quite often be parents, it can be colleagues, it can be siblings, it can be friends, and if you have the point of resistance where I've done nothing wrong, you're the abusive one, you're the one that is the issue, and you've got all the mental health problems in the world because there's nothing wrong with me, then you've got one of the most destructive elements of the situation, because that person's never going to budge and it won't change until they are reflective, and we're all deserving of more outside of that. So I hope that this video gives you some hope. Remember some of the key themes that I've said about keeping yourself safe. There is a women's safety book that's in Women's Aid. I highly recommend that you read it. And then for professionals, you have people like Sue Penner, who wrote a recovery toolkit guide for professionals. And I really recommend that you go on, or you can contact me for domestic abuse training.